Hi, my name is Megan Closby, and I'm a student from the University of New England Medical Physiology class, and today I'll be discussing with you the importance and difference between the short and long reflexes that make up the enteric nervous system. But before we get into the long and short reflexes, let us discuss the enteric nervous system first. So let's get started. The enteric nervous system is a division of the autonomic nervous system alongside with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This division of the autonomic nervous system can operate autonomously, which means it can operate independently from the central nervous system, or it can operate with the central nervous system through the utilization of the brain and spinal cord via sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system to transmit sensory signals through the spinal cord to reach the brain to integrate and transmit a response. Like the central nervous system, the enteric nervous system has efferent, afferent, and interneurons which allow the transmission of the reflexes. Parasympathetic nervous system utilizes the cranial nerve 10, the vagus nerve, while the sympathetic nervous system utilizes the prevertebral ganglion, where the synapse of the neurons happen. The location of the enteric nervous system lies within the walls of the GI tract. So that means the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, and the anus. Now let us discuss long reflexes. Long reflexes within the enteric nervous system utilize crosstalk between the enteric nervous system and the central nervous system. This allows parasympathetic nervous fibers via the vagus nerve and sympathetic nervous system nervous fibers via the prevertebral ganglion to send sensory information to the central nervous system to be integrated. Sensory information can be both internal and external, and cephalic reflexes, which we'll get into in a minute, are the feed-forward reflexes and the emotional reflexes. So the main difference between long reflexes is that it is integrated within the central nervous system, so it utilizes both the enteric nervous system and the central nervous system. Now, examples of the cephalic reflex is the feed-forward mechanism. So this happens anytime that our bodies see food, smell food, or even think of food. This is or can be seen as a preparatory response in which the sight, smell, and thought of food are stimuli that are sent to the central nervous system and transmit a response within the GI tract. This stimulates the secretion and prepares our GI tract for the consumption of food and the digestion of food. Now, the second cephalic reflex, which is part of the long reflexes, is the emotional reflex. So has there ever been a time where you've experienced a situation in which you are about to sing in front of a huge crowd, about to give an important speech, or had a huge life event where you get butterflies in your stomach? Or have you ever had the urge to have diarrhea prior to a huge life event? This is the emotional reflex. This is due to stress inducing a gut function. So this is like our stomach having a physiological stress response. So the next time that you have butterflies in your stomach, you can just contribute that to it being a long reflex. So in summary, the long reflexes are what's important for our body to have the crosstalk between the central nervous system and our enteric nervous system. Now, moving on into our short reflexes. The main difference between short reflexes and long reflexes are that short reflexes happen autonomously. They function independently from anything. So that means that the stimuli originate within the enteric nervous system and are integrated within the enteric nervous system with no communication with the central nervous system. So this is how it's considered a little brain. So this provides shortcuts in order for the enteric nervous system to act both quickly and efficiently. These short reflexes utilize and are located within nerve plexi, which we'll get into in 1 second in detail. The myenteric plexi and the submucosal plexi, those both function in different capacities. So let's get into that. So, the short reflex nerve plexi. You have the myenteric nerve plexus. This lies between the circular and longitudinal layers. So right in here and here. Within the tunica muscularis. And that that job of the myenteric plexus is responsible for controlling motility and tone of the gut. So that allows that peristaltic motion of food to be transported throughout the stomach. Moving on to the submucosal plexus, this innervates the cells of the epithelial layer and the muscularis mucosa smooth muscle. And it is responsible for the secretion of the GI epithelial cells. So it happens right in here. So they also function in secretion and absorption as well. So those are the main differences between short and long reflexes. So in summary, short reflexes happen autonomously, and they are located within the myenteric plexi and the submucosal plexi. Long reflexes are functioning with the help of the central nervous system. So their sensory signals are being sent from either outside, so the sight or smell of food, so the feed-forward mechanism, and are sent to the central nervous system to then trigger a response within the GI tract. And then you also have the emotional reflex, which occurs when you have a physiological stress response, and that causes you to have butterflies in your stomach or cause diarrhea before stressful events. So those are the main differences. We also have the parasympathetic nervous system, which utilizes the vagus nerve to send those signals and transmit those signals to the central nervous system. And you have the sympathetic nervous system, which utilizes the prevertebral ganglia in order to transmit those signals to the central nervous system. So thank you very much, and I hope that this kind of helped you understand the enteric nervous system, short and long reflexes a little bit better.